Sometimes they're like more in-person stuff like TV and radio and billboards. I found the best clients are the ones who buy everything. What's happening is we only had to do one thing. Figure out Facebook ads for personal injury lawyers. 2 tips I can make on that are make sure you're mailing people that are proven to buy and make the offer easy to say yes to. What's up, everybody? Facebook has made us live yet again. Excited to see you guys for another round. You guys are kicking ass, taking names. I love seeing it. I think marketers, I joke about this a lot with personal injury lawyers, but I say the only people with a worse reputation than you guys, because everybody hates lawyers, are us. It's people hate marketers even more than they hate lawyers, and I think you guys are bringing sexy back. And special little shout out to Lana for the old Frankie Fihn Cup. For those of you guys who haven't seen, we got a little announcement in the group. Maybe I'll post a link here. We got something called the 7-Figure Soup to Nuts. It's just a little mini course, but it is super, super jam-packed with powerful stuff about... I'm just going to put a link here. But it is super jam-packed with... stuff you can use to grow your agency. I actually think the most powerful thing, even though you basically get my recipe for a 7-figure agency, and I show you kind of what that looks like on the inside for us. I actually think the most valuable thing that you're going to get out of that, if you're interested, if you haven't checked that out already, is the first bonus where I show you guys like what we've done for years to sign 5 or 10 clients at a time. It is so fucking easy, and most people do it because most agency owners are thinking too much what I call checkers, like looking for tactics, and can't think strategically, which means thinking 2, 3, 4 moves in advance. If you guys do that, I'll tell you, like, for real, it's like signing 5 to 10 clients at once is a total fucking game changer. So check that out if you guys haven't already. See if it's your cup of tea. It may not be. That's cool too. But I think it's cool, but I'm obviously a little biased on the subject. Anyways, let's get into the good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Fihn proudly brings to you our weekly Q&A. Ba-dum-bum. So let's get into the questions, you guys. You guys are building cool stuff. Brian's up first. Brian says, who has the best screen recording software where you can download a file and then upload it to YouTube? Brian, I'm going to give you 2 answers to that. Number 1 is Loom, and Loom is free as long as you're making videos under 5 minutes. And the second answer to that is Screencastify, and Screencastify does not have a time limit. The first 10 videos you make are free, and they both have a button where you can, like, in one button, just automatically share it on YouTube. And so it makes it super, super easy. So I do that sometimes with clients, like just upload it unlisted, that kind of thing. Or if you're actually trying to put out content, makes it super, super easy. You just connect the account, click a button. You don't even have to actually download it and upload it. You just connect it, and the magic happens automatically. So check those out when you get a minute. Nazish, how do you find clients that are already using some sort of advertising such as Google Ads? This is a really intelligent question, Nazish. I hope I'm saying that right. Because I'll tell you what most folks do, and I've mentioned this in the book, is I call this the shoe buyer's idea. And this is actually not an idea. I get a lot of credit for this, but this is actually a Dan Kennedy idea. And he says in one of his trainings where he says, if you think about your product or service as selling shoes, what most people do is they try and sell shoes to people who are barefoot because it logically makes sense. And what you actually want to do is sell to somebody who has 100 pairs of shoes in the closet. Now, the shoes in the digital advertising space have different names. They're like Google ads, they're Facebook ads. Sometimes they're like websites and SEO. Sometimes they're like more in-person stuff like TV and radio and billboards. I found the best clients are the ones who buy everything. And because they want like this long-term competitive advantage. And so the easiest way to tell is just to go to Google. And when you look, like if I search personal injury lawyer Atlanta or dentist Los Angeles, you'll see people advertising. Those are the best people in my experience to contact. Also, I'll put a link for you guys. Let me just put this below as well. If you guys are interested in Coldlytics, by the way, can get you contacts from people who already have. You can filter it in Coldlytics for people who have the Facebook pixel and the Google pixel already installed on their website. I feel like that's a cheat code because they're guaranteed to have at least 2 pairs of shoes in the closet. And if you use the old Frankie Fihn affiliate link, which I just posted on Facebook here, you get 50 bonus links. So like that'll save you $50 or you get 50 extra depending on how you want to use it. But more than anything is you want to focus on people that are actively spending money. Like I've always found that if you approach people who do not spend money, you have 2 sales to make. Sale number 1 is you should spend money on advertising, and sale number 2 is that person you should use is me, or whatever your agency is. And what I found is it's actually the first sale that's the harder one to make. So if you get like say a dental practice and the dentist has grown 40 years on the basis of word of mouth and referrals and their upstanding like reputation in the community, those are really hard people to sell advertisements to because they've grown their business without it and they don't see a need for what you do, right? So it's much better to contact somebody who spends money. This is counterintuitive because what we usually do is we look at businesses that are struggling that marketing could fix and try and sell them that. But I found the longer you do this, you want to help winners win more. Not try and turn losers into winners. That doesn't mean like somebody's a loser in life or anything like that, but you don't want to take a losing dental practice and try and turn it around. You want to take winning dental practices and help them win more. If you really understand that, you'll make your life so much easier because you will align with already successful businesses and make your life so much easier. So I hope that's useful to all of you guys. Maurizio says, Hey, has anybody had their Facebook Business Manager hacked before? It looks like they removed our team from the Business Manager. Happened to me, Maurizio. Took a month and a half to get it back. I had to email the support over and over and over. And the first thing they did is eventually, after a bunch of generic copy and paste replies, I got somebody who then fixed the account by removing the person. Then I had to have them go through and restore me as an admin. That was a whole separate thing. And Facebook generally has pretty fucking terrible support. So you got to be patient with that. In the meantime, if you guys are looking at some stuff, I've got a training on YouTube for how you can generate business with direct mail. The reason I love direct mail is because the mailman never bans me. Plus, we get stuff cheaper than Facebook ads. It's a good alternative when your stuff goes down. If you're doing B2B, I would highly encourage you check that out. Matt says, hey, Frankie Fihn and other experienced agency owners, I wanted a few experienced opinions on how to get my agency to 23 clients from my existing 8 clients background. We're doing $20K a month. We have 1 niche and 1 deliverable. That's $100 bill style. Thanks, Frankie. You're welcome, brother. We have good SOPs, and our agency won't break when we scale, and 1 solid staff member, a converting risk reversal offer that's converting. Thanks to Frankie and Alex Harmozi. We're running Facebook ads and getting new clients at $2,500 Australian. The problem, it's slow. We're closing a new client every second week, even though we're spending $350 a day on ads. My question, if you've gotten your agency to 7 figures, what would you do from 5 clients to 23 in an effective fashion? Should I aggressively spend on Facebook knowing it works, or should I explore cold email, cold SMS, LinkedIn, direct mail, and other opportunities since I know I can convert them? Well, firstly, my dude, congrats to getting to 20K because a lot of people don't get that far. So that's a huge step. I understand, like, this may be a little shocking to you, but you're actually already on a 7-figure run rate. So basically, if you just keep signing a new client every 2 months and you keep them, you will hit $1 million a year at $2,500 a month after 40-ish clients. So like a year and a half is actually, but it sounds like in your case, and we had a nice little one-on-one talk about this, but you're looking to step on the gas, which I understand. Like when you have some shit that's working for different reasons, you want to like really scale it up fast and aggressively. The only thing I would caution you is be ready for everything that comes after that. You have to have your systems and your processes in order so that when you do get a bunch of business, it's very easy to hire people and scale it up. But having said that, having taken a look at your funnel, one of the things that really jumped out at me is Facebook ads are not really set up to go straight to conversion. I'm not saying it can't be done, but the higher and higher ticket sale that you offer, so like the ultimate high ticket sale for most people is like a house. I would not try and use Facebook ads if I sold a house to go straight from "you've never heard of me" to "buy this house" instantaneously, because it doesn't usually work like that. The average person, by the way, takes 6 months to decide on buying a house. So if you're selling like low ticket stuff, if you got like a $10 baby toy and you're running e-commerce ads, you can probably go straight to the sale without a lot of hoopla. But as the value of your purchase goes up, there is more needed. And so what I suggested in your case is build some follow-up onto the Facebook ad. So you're running a Facebook ad that it is working and it is getting people interested in raising their hands. The number one thing you can do is put intelligent follow-up. Now, for those of you guys who aren't doing follow-up, what do you put in those kind of things? Well, I'll tell you, the first thing is what I call a dramatic demonstration. If you can show them a picture of what it looks like, what they're going to get from you. Also, this is a little bit of an advanced topic, but I call this the old plan. Is what are they doing now to try and get results? And it turns out, because I had this conversation with Matt, that a lot of these roofers are like, they're putting signs in the ground and they're relying on word of mouth and referrals and all those kind of things. And so they have no control over their own business. And not only that, the kind of work they get from those is a mixed bag. Like somebody just needs a $100 leak repaired. There's like a lot of low value work. There's a lot of tire kickers. There's a lot of people who just call him and ask how much. And so he's helping them get like more like big deals, like complete roofing installs. So the more you can talk about everything that sucks about what they're doing. It took me probably a good 10 years to realize how fucking powerful this next statement I'm going to make is. And that is, they are buying their way out of what they are doing now far more than they are buying their way into your solution. And what most people do is they talk about the solution, the SEO, the Facebook ads, those things. In the case of a roofer, what they're buying their way out of, in your particular case, is all these low-value jobs that they got to drive out and quote and get on the ladder, and they don't like doing that, and they don't even close them half the time. And relying on word of mouth and having to drive around and knock on doors and bang signs in the ground. They're buying their way out of that far more than they're buying their way into your solution. So if you talk about what's undesirable about how they're getting results now and then present your new solution after that, by contrast, it'll make your stuff so much sexier. And then the other thing is, if you got testimonials and case studies, you can never work in too many of those. You can show and highlight results, but in your particular case, I would just bolt on some Facebook. You got it working at an introductory level. Now, like, take it to the next level and work in some more pieces, and I think you'll take it to like super sexy and working. So, hope that's helpful to the rest of you guys who are in similar situations. Annette says, I'd just like to share a quick win. Wasn't really planning on that because I want to pivot from my old offer of web design, but tried out Frankie Fihn's El Chapo style ads. I ran it only for a week and had a few less leads than usual, but each of them booked themselves into the calendar. That's never happened before, and the return was not bad, around 1,100%. So again, thank you, Frankie, for the ton of value in your group. I want to give a big shout out to one of the geniuses a lot of you guys may not know, is Steve Harsand. And Steve is living in Australia, and one of the things is he used to in Seattle, he was in America, and he ran a car dealership. And a lot of the big budget car dealerships, they take out, back in the day when he used to do it, they would take out full newspaper ads and they would announce like, hey, we're having an everything must go sale. Come on down to Crazy Ed's sale, whatever. And the smaller dealerships, which he built up a smaller dealership, they don't have that kind of budget where they can just drop like 20 grand on a newspaper ad. And so they had to sell cars individually. And so they almost always sold those back in the day in the classified ads. And one of the things Steve said is when he was running those classified ads is they don't give you a lot of words. Like, it's very, very small. And so he had to figure out how to say everything that was important about that car in 20 words or less, because that's all they gave you. Red Toyota, runs well, 20,000 kilometer, or, whatever. New stereo, like good condition, like, old lady driven, like those kind of things, right? Needs repair, like he had to be like to the fucking point. And I find a lot of ads that are written by marketers are the opposite of to the point, is they try and like sell you on the idea of their thing, and it's actually counterproductive because it doesn't sell. So I always joke, a lot of what we do inside the Wolfpack is more like inviting people in, and an invitation is like, hey, we're having a barbecue this weekend, and if you'd love to come join us, we're going to have, all these sides and potato salad and cornbread, and there'll be some nice music, and it's going to be from Sunday to 1 to 4. If you'd like to join us, let us know. That's an invite. It's very soft, it's very casual, but it causes more pull. What most people do is like, are you lonely? Do you have nothing to do on Sunday? Well, let me tell you about my new solution. And so the El Chapo ads is really just like it's modeled in the stuff that has not changed in 100 years, which is nail the important parts, get to the fucking point. And if you guys do that, like you'll convert way more stuff than what everybody else is telling you got to do. And I experienced this for me. We used to run like Facebook ads, and I listened to everybody's advice. And so what ended up happening for me is like we're running all these split tests and trying all these angles and copy and blah, blah, blah. And I think that's very useful for the people with like 500, maybe even $1,000 a day budgets or more. You need to split test everything. But for most of you guys who are just trying to get like 50 clients or less, like it's terrible fucking advice. And it makes you get into all the weeds of Facebook, and I found it's much better just to have one fucking ad that gets to the point and converts. And so congratulations, Annette, for doing that. I know there wasn't really a question there, but I just wanted to comment a little bit on that. Our man Josh says, okay, I need some help understanding the one deliverable content. What does this mean? As far as I understand, I need to have deliverables for all the services I offer. So if I'm doing plastic surgeon, cosmetic dentist, med spa, is my one deliverable more patients? Well, I would say firstly is it'll help you, Josh, to narrow down is not to do this for med spas, dentist, and what was the other one? Let me just read that real quick. And plastic surgeons, right? Like I would probably pick one of those and like really go all in on that. But having said that, let me give you 2 examples, and I kind of spelled this out in the comments. So this is more for people like that are in a similar situation. Let me tell you how I did this both right and wrong. Okay, so my first agency, I did this very, very wrong, is we did SEO for largely plastic surgeons. That was our niche. But what happened is basically anytime anybody showed up with a credit card and a problem, I was open to solving it. So that meant sometimes like I got a bankruptcy lawyer who said, can you do SEO? And I said, sure. And somebody said, can you design a website? And I said, sure. And they said, can you do Google ads? And I would say, of course I can do Google ads. And they would say, hey, can you edit some videos? And I would go, of course I can edit some videos. And for me at the time, it was kind of fun because I was learning new skills. But what ended up happening is I started drowning in the fulfillment of all those things. Like the limiting factor, if you will, the constraint in my business was like I had a little bit of everything. I was spread out all over the place doing 18 million things. And what ended up happening is also I didn't have a lot of money to pay people for those things, right? They weren't paying me millions of dollars to edit videos. So it's not like I could bring in and hire the best help. And I didn't have instructions and trainings on those things because I had to teach myself. And so what happened is all those things just became a time and energy suck. And I was like, just pulled a million fucking places. That's an example, by the way, of doing it wrong, in my opinion. My second agency, we built up, and I was a little wiser the second time around, is we started doing Facebook ads for personal injury lawyers. And what I decided at that point is, and part of it was when people come to you and they say, can you help me with this? Like I know nobody talks about this, but as a marketer, you actually care and you want to help people. But I learned to say this magic word, no. And it's an extremely important word to use for these one-off projects. And the way I did this ethically and still helping people is I would recommend them to somebody. Hey, I know a really good Google Ads guy, or let me find you a video editor who can do a bang-up job. Or you know what? That's not in my wheelhouse, but let me find someone who can do that. And so what ended up happening is we only had to do one thing. Figure out Facebook ads for personal injury lawyers. Now, I don't know if we were the first ones to run Facebook ads for personal injury lawyers, but we were one of the first ones, if not the first one. And so there's a lot of shit to figure out. But what I figured out is eventually, like, I think, in the early days, we had maybe like 20 clients. But I figured out as soon as we got it working for one client, I would literally take the same campaigns of the second client. So like I would have to change details. Like if the one lawyer's name was Joe and the other was Tom, I'd have to change the name Joe for Tom and swap their picture and change like California to Alabama. But nonetheless, it was the same shit. And so what ended up happening is I was really mostly just copying and pasting to get results. And so we were doing like the same thing over and over and over and over. And so that allowed me to eventually make systems and processes, and I could put people and systems into that. And it sounds like, Drew, you can like relate to this issue. And then what ended up happening is, rather than trying to manage 20 clients, I'm really just managing one campaign 20 times, right? Because when it works one place, I immediately share that with everybody. And so what ended up happening is the whole thing got easier. In fact, it was easier to manage 20 clients like that than 3 clients when I was doing custom work. And so it is all the things that are outside of your wheelhouse. So your one deliverable can be complex. Like I know Josh Nelson's a big fan of like all-in-one solutions where they come to you, you're running their Google ads, their Facebook ads, and their SEO. But whatever you design for a client should be reusable from one client to the next. The way I say, like, you'll know you have this right when you sign client number 2 and number 3 and you start 90% finished even before they hit go, because you already have the ads, you already have the landing page, you already have everything set up that you're going to need to like rock their results. So that is the deeper idea behind the one deliverable, is it's energy efficient, right? Like client 2, 3, 4, 5, copy, paste, and you can hire people to do the copy and pasting. Yusuf says, I would like to build some backlinks to my SEO resource website. I've curated 25,000 potential leads that have a blog post that are relevant to my niche and would like to offer them an optimization for their post that will increase the value of their, sorry, I just lost my place there. They'll increase the value of their post, making it improve, blah, 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 blah. Experience for the reader. Sorry, my friend, I got lost. In exchange for a link back to my site, I'm thinking of reaching out to all of them via MailChimp and offering them a few different optimizations. Are there suggestions you have to increase the chances of success? Even if I get a 0.5 success rate from this, I'll be able to achieve my goal for the project. Also, what is the best way to find out optimizations they would be most interested in? I'll tell you, this is a question that is so deep, Yusuf, on the surface. Is what most people do, and I think this is the wrong question to start with. I'm not saying that we're all guilty of asking the wrong question, and I certainly have asked this question. I used to start with my one thing. I got a blog post for sale in your case, or a blog where like I can give you sponsored links for SEO value. Who wants to buy it, or how can I get somebody to buy it? And I think it's a much better question to start the question in, who is buying that already? And if I had to take an educated guess, the answer are SEO companies that have dozens and dozens and dozens of clients that need ongoing links, not just one time, but over and over and over. Like when I used to do a shit ton of SEO, like I bought fucking links all the goddamn time. So like chances are it's not about like who's a match. That's thinking about it like I got shoes. Who's barefoot? I want to know who already has 100 pairs of shoes in the closet. And if I had to guess, it's SEO companies. So I would narrow down your focus to the SEO companies that are buying it and start that relationship and then offer them something like irresistible. Like I can give you your first blog post at an introductory rate of whatever, knowing that they're going to buy from you 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. And so I would reach out to the people who have a constant need for what you sell, and I think you'll have a much easier time. Drew says, basically building a template that is reusable to fast track, rinse, and repeat. That's the game, my man. And I'll tell you, in the beginning, I used to think my value was all in like doing all this custom solutions, and now I see my value as the asset, like the marketing machine that it is working, I'm leasing to you. And the way I illustrate this to people, if you really understand this different, you'll get very wealthy, is would you rather own, or would you rather have a $2,500 per month Facebook ad client, or would you rather own a system that clients are paying $2,500 per month for now? And if you really understand that it's better to own the system, then you'll understand that what you're doing really is creating systems and then leasing those systems to client, allowing them to use your assets to produce results. And so it's your assets that provide the money, not the stuff in between your ears. If you think about that, you'll start building your machine and you'll be leasing your machine, which is very different. You'll also approach clients differently because rather than like trying to convince them to come work with you to solve a problem, it's like, hey, I have an asset that it is working on that and I would love to plug it into your machine. L. Michael Smith, my man, I'm looking to start direct mail outreach you discussed with Matt. Biggest 2 tips I can make on that are make sure you're mailing people that are proven to buy and make the offer easy to say yes to. The service we use for that, by the way, is called Click to Mail. Click number 2 mail, and they allow mass personalization, meaning like if you're sending a message to Andy, you can write Dear Andy. If you're writing to Frankie, you can say Dear Frankie. If you're writing to Drew, you can say Dear Drew. And so every message that's received is personalized, even though you just sent one letter and just put a placeholder for that. So like that's the beauty of Click to Mail. It costs about $1 a letter. Drew says something like GHL. You can use GHL. I mean, I've done this with and without software. Like GHL certainly has a lot of value. You just want to think about, in essence, what you're designing for one client is going to be valuable for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 clients. And if you think differently, you're always designing the system for more than one client as you're making it. But like, for example, on the like designing it for like more than one client is I try to not do anything now. I had a mentor say this to me so goddamn simple. He said something like, I like to do things like that I do once and get paid for again and again. And when he said that, it was like that is so like geniusly simple what he said. And I realized when he said it at the time, I had nothing that I was doing once and getting paid for twice. Everything was do once, get paid once. And I was like, huh. And it really, really like, took me a while to like even understand how to do that. What's up, Hetty? But once I made that shift, I'll tell you, you'll become a lot wealthier because you're creating systems. So like an example of how people do this wrong is like they'll run Google ads for a plumber. And after a while, they eventually figure out how to get them phone calls and things like that. And then they go looking for a new, totally different Google ads client. And in my opinion, what you should be doing is getting more results out of the system you already have. In other words, there's like 3,000 other plumbers that, could use basically the exact kind of system. Just going to put on a little chill out music. Connected to Daddy's phone. So where are we at? Yowar, I hope I'm saying your name right. Just curious, how do you ensure your clients feel heard and valued? I think one of the smartest things you can do is have some kind of feedback loop in the system, meaning that you intentionally put regular intervals where you ask the client, like, what's going on in your world? Is there anything I can help you with? Just to see where they're at, where they're stuck. Maybe you may not be able to. I found like some of the best stuff like I've ever done for lawyers is just recommending them a name. For example, like a common problem in personal injury, for example, is that lawyers typically like they because they do everything on contingency, they don't get paid for like 6 to 18 months until their business settles. But the problem is they're paying for everything now. So they're acting like the bank. They have to hire experts. They got to get photographs taken. They got to, make deals with doctors and things like that. And they're financing that all out of their pocket. So it's common in their industry to say things like, I got 10 million in the streets. And what they mean by that is over the next year and a half, $10 million are owed to me that I will collect. But none of that pays any bills or covers cash flow today. And so one of the things that I've learned to do for those people is say, hey, do you finance all your own stuff? And they say, yes. And I say, you might want to check out a company like Advocate Capital that can do all your financing for you. And all of a sudden, that's like the most valuable thing they've ever heard. And it only comes out of like them telling me like, hey, I got cash flow issues. Well, here's a solution to it. So if you pay attention to clients, almost always you can bring in resources and pieces that are valuable and you don't even have to do anything. Sometimes it's just 2 words, Advocate Capital, right? Like it's just a name of somebody who can help them with their system. But I think setting up a feedback loop is really, really important if you want to keep clients long-term and be super valuable to them. Jeremy says, does anyone have an example of a cheat sheet they've been successfully using for as a lead magnet? I'm in the process of creating one and need some inspiration. I will give you the deeper idea behind that. I'm happy to give you some examples, but these are some guidelines that'll make your life so much easier is I've seen people who create 350 word or page ebooks that people download, and what ends up happening is it ends up in purgatory. Nobody ends up opening the ebook or reading it. So the first thing I'll tell you is don't do that. Don't spend a lot of time creating lead magnets. Instead, I want you to think about it in terms of, if you only have 15 minutes to get somebody a small but meaningful result in your industry, what would you do? And that's usually the best place to start. So like one we ran for successfully for a lot of years is I talked to a lot of lawyers and found out that like 85% of their business came all from referrals. And then I would ask them, like, what do you do to make referrals happen? And they would say, nothing. And so I started talking to the more successful law firms that had systems and processes and procedures, and I just wrote down everything they did. And so we created a checklist, 26 things you can do to make your referrals happen intentionally. But it's a short little one-pager, like somebody can consume it in 5 minutes and get value, right? So you want to think about, Nicholas Kusmich uses the acronym SAGE, which stands for short, actionable, goal-oriented, and educational. And so the easiest way I've understood this is like creating a small but meaningful result is thinking about the immediate thing they're stuck on and give them a little bite, give them a little nibble that'll help move them in the direction. So Frank Kern described this as results in advance, and this was like a real eye-opener for years ago. He said he was working with a dating coach, and most guys who were trying to get a date or try to get a woman, they were trying to do it in a single step. And there's no single step that'll go from like, I'm at home and lonely to like, I got a wife. Like, it doesn't work like that. And so what they figured is the first thing the guy struggled with is they didn't know how to open a conversation. The second thing they struggled is once they had a conversation, they didn't know where to go with it. They didn't know how to ask for the number, and then they didn't know how to like actually do a date, and then they didn't know how to like go on multiple dates and how to like set that up. And so if you map that out as like that's the journey somebody has to go through in 5 steps. They got to be able to talk to a girl, they got to be able to have a conversation, they got to be able to get the number, they got to be able to text, they got to be able to get a date. Then the most valuable lead magnet they're going to give away is just like, here's how to open something short, like 5 openers, like go try them, those kind of things, and how to use them, right? So you want something that's equivalent. It helps them with the most immediate step. It's short, it's actionable, it's goal-oriented, and it's educational. Put it in 1 page. It's not more valuable if it's on 350 page. The opposite is true if you're dealing with busy, successful people. It's actually more valuable on 1 page that can be consumed in 5 minutes, but it creates a small but meaningful win, and then all you got to do is create ads that give it away. L. Michael Smith says, favorite CRM and client text message software for your agency. I don't do a ton with text messaging, although we do have it in our real estate business, and we use something called Batch Leads, although Go High Level does a lot of that too, and it's integrated with Twilio, but I'm probably not the best person to ask for that. As far as CRM, it's kind of a lame answer, my friend, but like the best CRM is the one you're going to fucking use. Like, too many people get hung up on like all the features, and I'll tell you, we use Asana, and not because I think Asana is the best CRM, but this is how I figure shit out for real. Is I write it down on a notepad and then I execute it. And so I create like to-do lists for myself. I call them my choose to-do lists. And Asana was really simple for me to get my head around because it's just digital to-do lists. Is you create a to-do list, you put some instructions, you assign it to someone and put a date. Like, that's how my brain really works. So I'm a big fan of Asana just because it for my tiny brain it works. But having said that, I'll throw out some names you may want to check out. Go High Level, people love a lot of Go High Level. I hear a lot of people use ClickUp. ClickUp has some advanced automations and stuff like you can use. And if you're more of like a post-it note kind of person, if you get stuff done by post-it notes, you'll really like Trello. I've also heard a little bit about Monday. I can't comment one way or another, but I just like really stupid simple. Like for me, Asana, I can set it up and start using it in 5 minutes. I just actually, we're working on a crypto project as a consultant. I'm working on it, and I just had them set up everything on Asana, and we got up and running, and it took me 5 minutes because I already know how to use it, and there's no learning curve, and it's stupid simple software. So is it the best? Probably not. There's probably like way more advanced shit that you can do, but like I like to use it because we can get stuff done and I can get off and running. So it's probably not the best answer, but it's whatever you'll use. Umar says, How can I find the business owner's email address? I have data for company website, owner's name, and company name in an Excel sheet. Just want to find the real address, such as John at domain. I'm not looking for the generic email finders. That's a Coldlytics one. I put a link above for you, John, that you can use. Coldlytics is really good at finding the actual decision maker's email, because if you use the catch-all email, info at dental practice, it's going to go to the front desk and they're just going to delete your outreach message. It's not even going to go to the boss. But if you have like boss at dental practice or Dr. Joe at dental practice, it's far more likely to get through, and they've got some really good tools. That's one of the secrets I think gives Coldlytics an advantage, is they find the owner's email address, not just the catch-all email address that everybody else is using. So check it out when you get a minute. Jesse says, does anyone have consulting or coaching as a niche? Thoughts on this as a niche? I'm concerned because I feel like local service industries might be a little easier to rank since there is less competition. It's local only. I'm interested in this industry as I want to work with more women-owned businesses and have researched to find this is a good industry for that. Any thoughts? Appreciated. Well, firstly, Jesse, this is a thing for the most part. There aren't really that many bad niches. If there's a niche at all, somebody's making it. The ones that are the bad niches are the ones really that are like entirely controlled 100% by insurance companies, and therefore there's not really what you can do. Like, I would never work with a general practice doctor because, you know, they don't really advertise, and even if they do, their prices are set and all of those kind of things. But for the most part, what most people fail to understand is if there is a niche at all, somebody's making money in it. And within that niche, there is always a spectrum. So if you talk to 100 dentists, like 70 or 80 of them are going to be struggling. And like 10 or 15 of them are going to be doing really well. And like 5 of them are going to be like crushing it, like world domination kind of plans. This is true in every industry, okay? So I actually, you know, this is one of the things, like Lana comes to mind in our mastermind. When she first started, she was working with yoga studio owners, and she thought, everybody in my niche is broke. Like all these yoga studios. And I said, you're aiming for the 70, 80% that are the brokest. And you're fishing with what I call broke people bait. Like if you use, you know, boxed macaroni and cheese and you fish in the ghetto, you're going to get clients in the ghetto. If you go to the country club and fish with lobster bisque, you're going to get country club kind of people. And so she was talking about the problems of like a yoga studio owner struggling just to get anybody at all in the door to get their business off the ground. And lo and behold, the people who responded were broke. Love that, Reginald. The world is a ghetto, Tupac. Anytime we're quoting Tupac, this is a fucking awesome session. But anytime you're like aiming for the broke segment of your market, you're going to struggle. Now, the reason I tell you this is especially important in the coaching industry, because there's a lot of people who call themselves a life coach, and they're cool. Like, I'm sure they're good people, but they have 0 clients and they have 0 traction and they have 0 money. What I would do is focus on aiming at the ones who have established businesses. And so you talk about the challenges that, so here's an example. Usually once a business gets more established, they have teams. They have more than one person, right? So in a coaching business, the first person they usually hire, by the way, is either a virtual assistant or a salesperson. And so one of the challenges becomes now all of a sudden they have to keep this salesperson busy with enrollment calls or coaching calls or strategy sessions or sales calls, whatever language they use to do that. And I would talk about those problems and how you can supplement that with SEO and not be dependent on just Facebook ads and just the organic stuff they do. And I would narrow down to the women-owned ones that do that. So I want you to, it's not thinking about, is the niche good? Because there's good and bad within the niche. I want you to aim for the top 10% of your market. Again, help winners win more. We're not here to take people who are struggling and help them break the struggle. We're taking people who are winning already, and we are going to help them win more. So if you understand that, your job is to identify coaches that are already doing well and already paying for ads and already have a structure and already have a system to close and already have a 8-week program that people are happy with, and they're already, like, you know, female owned, and then help those people win more. And that's where I think you can plug your SEO in, like, super easy. And then as far as you're concerned about, is it too competitive? Well, if they're niched down to like women only business coach, then it's not going to be super competitive in Google. If you go for like really generic broad terms, like business coach or finance coach, it's probably going to be like super bloody and cutthroat. But if you're trying to be like, female weight loss coach over 40, you're going to probably have a much easier time. So that's what I would focus on, is like, don't think about the niche as this like uniform thing. Like, dentists are not all equal. Lawyers are not all equal. I've met single lawyers who just started their law practice 10 minutes ago, don't know how to handle cases, and are struggling and running the business out of their bedroom. And they're cool people, but I wouldn't work with them. I've also met lawyers who have like hundreds of employees and 30, 35 locations, right? So all things being equal, aim for the people who are succeeding and help them succeed more. Anonymous. What's the best advice you could give someone just starting their agency? I think one of the reasons most people struggle in this is like getting this business off the ground is because I think they do step one backwards. And step one to me is to pick a niche of people and learn everything you possibly can about who they are, which means to me like actively listening into their conversation, seeing who they are, where they get stuck at, and actually trying to serve them. And I've used this story before that kind of illustrates the point, but it'll help you guys understand the difference of doing step one right and doing step one wrong. Because if you do step one wrong, everything you will fucking do in that business will be uphill after the fact. So my hometown of Windsor, Ontario, Canada is known largely for like two things. For whatever reason, we got a shit ton of good pizza places. It's actually really weird. It's a place you wouldn't think that has good pizza, and yet it does. It's like, I've been to Italy and I've eaten pizza. I've eaten it in New York. I've had it in Chicago. I'm telling you, Windsor pizza is just as good. The second thing they have a lot of is auto body shops. Like way more than normal. There's like one at every street corner. And I'm convinced the reason why most auto body shops start is because somebody is working for somebody else and says, this is shit, I want to be my own boss, and so I'm going to start my own auto body shop. And they start their business, and this is the point I'm getting to, is they start their business with 100% selfish reasons. And businesses need to be market driven, you can have selfish reasons, don't get me wrong, all of us have them. But if you only have selfish reasons, the whole business will be hard. And so what that creates in my city, for example, is it's very, very hard for these guys to win business because there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of competitors, way more than the market needs. Now, I remember I was visiting my brother. My brother ordered some Chinese food. Him and his wife were having a little disagreement. And they went into the door and they were kind of all pissed off. They got their Chinese food. About 5 minutes later, the Chinese food driver knocks on the door and he says, it's me again. And we're like, what are you doing here? And he points to the street, and I don't know if he was texting or what, but he backed out and he backed into my brother's car, and my brother's car then backed from the collision back into my girlfriend's car, and the tailpipe of my brother's car went right through the front of it. Now, she had a Volkswagen Beetle, and the insurance company said, make sure you get 3 quotes from 3 different auto body shops, and they recommended 3 places. We went to all 3 of them, and all 3 of them said the exact same thing. They said, Volkswagen are too complicated. They're foreign cars. They're specialty cars. We don't touch Volkswagens. And they recommended a guy who was in the city. He only worked on Volkswagens. And when we got there, we said, can you give us a quote? And he said, and I'll never forget his answer. He said, hey, I'm sorry, guys, but I'm so busy. I have so many cars and I have so many people requesting my help that I won't even be able to get you a quote for a week. But let the insurance company know that I'll do it. And you can get like a replacement car in the meantime. So we got a replacement car. And the reason this guy was so busy is not because he was a brilliant marketer, not because he was so smart, not because his messaging was so great, but he was legitimately fulfilling an actual fucking market need. Now, let me bring this back to what's the advice I would give an agency owner, is figure out what your market is actually stuck on before you create your service. What most people do is go, I sell Facebook ads, I sell websites, I sell SEO, I sell Google ads, I do TikTok, and then they try and figure out how to sell it. And that's like starting an auto body shop because you want to start an auto body shop. It is way better to put your ear to the ground and listen and go, hey, everybody keeps asking about Volkswagens. Why don't we do SEO for Volkswagens? Why don't we do Google ads for or Google ads for Volkswagens, right? What you will find is there are always 100 times out of 100 underserved pockets of your market. And if you start the business in that, you will immediately make it downhill. I'll give you one more example of just how powerful this is. There's a guy, I don't remember the guy's name, but he's a billionaire today. And how he started is he went to one of the big grocery store chains in America. I think it was Meijer, but I could be mistaken. And he went into his local branch and he asked the service manager, he said, "What are people always asking you about that you don't provide here in your store?" And his answer was 2 words. He said, "Key duplication." In other words, like, you know, when you need to get a copy of your key made and they do that machine and they cut it up. I'm sure some of you guys have seen it and know what I'm talking about. And so he created a kiosk that did key duplication, and then he went back to the same manager and said, "Can I set up my key duplication in your store?" And the manager said yes. And it wasn't long before he was in like all 1,000 chains nationally and was the key duplication guy and crushing it because that's what people wanted. So by getting step 1 right, the entire business afterwards is downhill. If you create an auto body shop because that's what you know how to do and you don't evaluate what your market needs, the rest of your business life will be pushing a boulder uphill because you have hundreds and hundreds of competitors who all have Me Too offers the same thing. So it's not always changing, like it's not always a massive change. It's not a huge difference between like doing auto body work and doing auto body work for Volkswagens. Like, it's not a huge change, but you can only get that if you really deeply understand your market. So step 1 is pick your niche and fucking listen as deeply as you can possibly listen. Reginald says, there are more real estate agents in the USA than houses that need sold. Exactly. And yet, at the same time, I can tell you, there's not enough agents that work with investors. There's not enough agents that handle waterfront property. There's not enough good agents that know how to like lease commercial properties. Like there's always underserved pockets despite the fact that there's way too many fucking real estate agents. And as Reginald is alluding to with his message is like a lot of times they just want to be a real estate agent because they heard it's cool and they went and go take a course, but because they never listen to like what's needed. So here's an example of the difference between them. If you go to the city of Cleveland, there's probably way too many fucking real estate agents like every other city. There's one guy in there, and his niche is he helps snowbirds who own one house in Cleveland and one house in Florida, and they like to, in the winter, go down to Florida, and then in the summertime come back to Cleveland. And he also knows all the details that most agents don't know, such as like, hey, when I go down to Florida, where can I watch the Cleveland Browns play, right? But he's identified an underserved pocket and specialized in that. That's how you want to create the business. And how do you discover these? Almost always when you listen, you'll just see questions going like, hey, can anybody help me with my Volkswagen? Sorry. And you'll see those answers not being met. Can anybody recommend a software or tool that does blank? Who do you guys use for blah, blah, blah? And you'll see there's unmet needs. Fill them, and you'll make your business so much easier. The minute you're selling key duplication to people asking for key duplication, you'll find yourself going, I'm busier than I need to be. And shout out to Mark. Mark just actually did this on our Loom workshop. And he went from like, hey, I'm struggling to get any client to buy my Facebook ads. We identified an underserved pocket. He signed 20 clients in the last week and a half. And now he's struggling to backfill all his fulfillment because he signed so many clients so quickly. But that's a good problem to have. I know it's stressful when you're in the middle of it, but that's an example of when you go downhill, the whole thing gets easier. Drew says Fred Meyer. I don't necessarily know what that means. I think that's it. We got all the questions. 48 minutes of listening to me ramble. Just a quick little announcement for those of you guys who missed it. I put a link above. We are live on the 7-figure soup to nuts, which is just like a little mini course that I wanted you guys to have so you can see what inside of a 7-figure agency actually looks like, the systems, the processes. There's basically, like in my opinion, 12 things you need. If you nail those 12 things, you will consistently print money and it'll be boring. It'll be an easy to run repeatable, systematic business. I know not everybody wants to get to 7 figures, but even if you want to get to like 6 or high 6, I think it's still a really useful thing. And then also, I think the most valuable thing in there is the first bonus. I show you guys how we sign 5 to 10 clients at once. It is different than what everybody else is talking about. Everybody else is like, just do massive amounts of outreach, just outreach, booked appointments. Let's look what I hear everybody shouting. You can do this without ever having a book appointment. You can send one fucking message, sign 5 to 10 clients. And if you understand this, like, it's a total game changer. So if you guys, I'm going to tease it a little bit. If you guys are interested, check that out. You'll dig it. You really, really will dig it because it's such a smarter way of doing it. And the analogy I use on this, by the way, about the signing 5 to 10 clients at once is my first ever job. I was 13 years old. We sold chocolate bars door to door. Oh, Drew says Fred Meyer's the guy's name. So we sold chocolate bars door to door. And this was just like a summer job, and I'd spend like anywhere from like 4 to 6, 7 hours a day. I'd knock on doors, and you open up a cooler with some chocolate bars, and you go, "Hey, do you want to buy one of these?" And you basically get one of 3 responses. You get ghosted, meaning they don't answer the door, even sometimes when they're home, or if they're not home, obviously. They say no, or they say, "Sure, I'll buy one," and they buy one. And that's basically the 3 responses. And at the end of like 6, 7 hours a day, I'd make like $50 in chocolate money. But every now and then, like once a month, our manager we would go to the grocery store, and he would ask the manager at the grocery store, "Hey, we got these chocolate bars for the blind. Do you mind if we stand outside your store and sell them?" And he used to have this like little tiny like Geo Metro car, and he would pile like 8 kids in there, like almost like a clown car filled with chocolate. And as much chocolate as we could possibly stuff into that car with all those kids, we would be sold out in 10 or 15 minutes. And the reason we would be sold out in 10 or 15 minutes is because there was new buyers coming through. Like every 5 seconds, somebody walked into the store, and we didn't even have to be super aggressive because they saw we had chocolate bars. They were coming to the store hungry and had money. Often they would just buy one because they were hungry and like take it into the store with them and eat it. And 15 minutes tops, we would be out of everything we had. And there is a way to do that digitally. What everybody else is saying is like knock on all the doors. That's cold outreach. And I'm not saying it doesn't work. But it's much smarter to identify the grocery store manager's door, knock on that one door, strategically add value and say, "Hey, a lot of your people are looking for chocolate bars. I would like to give you guys a bunch of chocolate bars." And what you can do is you can sell out your stuff in like 15 minutes. So I think I call it quantum leaps forward in income. If you guys do this, it'll be a game changer for you. So if you haven't already, check that out. I put a link above in the comments. And that's pretty much all I got for you guys. I appreciate you guys sticking with me all the way 51 minutes. And much love. May the force be with you. Hey guys, if you like this video, you'll probably also like our free Facebook group, Beyond Agency Profits, Agency Lifestyle Design. You can get free copies of the book inside here. I look ridiculous. We're doing weekly Q&As, giving answers to all your questions. Some of the best, smartest, brightest people. We've got lots of industry leaders doing 7, 8 figures and beyond. It's a literal who's who of the brightest agency owners that I know, as well as lots of tips on scaling and stuff, books that work. So if you're not already part of it, you're going to want to be part of it. So make sure to click the link. I put it in the description of the video as well as in the pinned top comment below. So just scroll down and you can join, and it's totally free.